Rose ITSL is having an event on Wednesday, the 7th of June, 2023 at the Hilton Trinidad and Tobago Conference Center. The hybrid event, Helpdesk Habits, and its guest speaker and founder, Mark Koperman, will be here to deliver an exclusive and interactive session that will change the way businesses and IT teams look at customer service and dealing with internal and external customers. Joining us this morning for the conversation is the Managing Director of Rose IT Services Limited, Mr. Omar Romero. Good morning, Omar.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for bringing something like this to Trinidad and Tobago. I mean, we've seen the evolution. We know digital transformation is taking place, but when it comes to core training, it's something that sometimes may leave a bit to be desired. So this particular event, a hybrid event, Helpdesk Habits, share with us what led you to bring this to Trinidad.
Well, I think as an IT provider operating locally, one of the challenges that we observe is how do we build those soft skills internally in our company and as well in the industry. So I think that coming out of the pandemic, there's a huge global demand for those soft skills, and for a couple of reasons. One of them is that we are just more connected to devices, so that demand is going to accelerate down the years. People are not connecting as much as people, so companies are now looking for persons who have that technical competency, but can also combine that with those soft skills for interacting with customers, interacting with people, and who can put those things together. So we decided at that time that it would be a good idea that there are a lot of paths to achieve technical competencies, certifications, courses, university degrees, but not much is really taught along the lines of how do you build that soft skills and marry that with everything else that you have. And we thought it would be a great idea to bring that here.
It definitely is a fantastic idea, and something that, as you mentioned, marrying these skills is so important, so that there's that interaction as well. Because many times a lot of people will look at those who are perhaps within that field and say, we have the old notion of, very introverted, not necessarily the top communicators. Sorry, guys, it is what it is. So to see this happening is definitely a great way forward. Now, we were discussing off air that you did this course.
Yes, so for our company internally, and I actually first saw the presenter on a trip to the US, and he did a presentation on soft skills in IT.
Right.
And at that time, I found it really impactful, and I felt that it was something that our team could benefit from. I think often someone comes into the organization and we train them up in terms of as a help desk, how to troubleshoot issues, how to deal with problems. But on the other side of that is that there's someone on the other side of the phone. Take, for example, and I think all of us have had a challenge. You call your internet provider with a problem, and your first interaction with that provider is not pleasant. That might color your impression of the provider as a whole. You're going to say this provider is pretty much a waste of time, right? But if that first person who's having that interaction is not trained properly, you can't blame the person because they just haven't been trained. We found that there is a way to train that.
Right.
There is a way to learn, and by developing those habits over time, if you can put that together with just the ability to troubleshoot and technical competencies, then it's a really valuable skill to have. The great thing about this event is that it's a one-day event, but there is a license or course attached to it.
Right.
So for the in-person attendees who come to the event, they actually get a license to complete the course online. There's a certification, and it goes onto your profile. So it's something you can carry with you for the remaining of your career.
Wonderful. So since you've done this, have you seen a change when it comes to your business and interaction with customers?
Yes, so definitely. I think in terms of our business, one of, I think, our differentiators is how we interact with our clients. Every day, because we have a help desk, every call we get is someone who's having a problem, and that can be a range of different things, but there's a way to sort of deal with that person, because you have to also be a bit emotionally intelligent, understanding that, look, this person is calling for a solution, and it's something you have to know in terms of how to deal with that person and help them to get to that solution.
So who is this open to?
So this is open to the general public. So I would say that anyone, it's been framed, even though it's sort of on a track for technical teams and technology teams, any company that values customer service and has a front-facing customer service for external and internal customers can benefit for it. For organizations, that we do have group rates. And as I said, it's a hybrid event, so we do have a limited capacity for in-person attendance, but there is the virtual option. For the virtual side of it, it's not, it's an interactive virtual event as well.
Okay.
So it's not simply turn on Zoom and look at it. You do also have the opportunity to interact with the presenter over video. You actually have some door prizes, which is going to be drawn for the in-person and virtual audience. So we try to make it fun as well.
Yeah.
In terms of the lineup for the event, we do have the feature presentation from Mark Koopman, who is going to be here from the UK. But we're also involving some local talent in that field. We have actually one of the local spoken word poets, Kyle Hernandez,
Okay.
who's going to be doing something at the beginning of the event. We have Dawn Richards, another customer service expert in the field here. So as much as it's a technology event, we're also trying to marry that customer service track onto it.
Definitely. And I mean, the thing about tech is, let's be real about it, it's fun. That's something that you realize, when you start to get into it. It's not necessarily just, numbers and all these, what we would have grown up with perhaps as millennials, but it's a very fun industry to be in as well, because you're also impacting lives, which is so important. And I love the fact that you've brought in the creative side of it and opened this up to the general public, because at the end of the day, once you can perhaps sit through something like this, it also is going to give you that perspective as to what the provider is also dealing with. Do you have any closing comments or anything you'd like to share about the events before we wrap?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that coincidentally, today is Global MSP Day, Managed Service Provider. So for companies like us who provide services, it's a day where we just recognize, as you mentioned, providers and the role that they play. We operate in a space, for example, larger organizations may have internal IT departments dedicated to handling everything that goes with IT. But we operate in a space where we help a lot of companies who probably can't afford that big infrastructure.
Right.
But they do need, everything is reliant on technology, as you know, especially now, right? Whether you have your own personal computer, whether you are in an office or you're working remotely, there's a support element that is behind that, and managed service providers are really working very hard and tirelessly in that space to provide those services. So today is coincidentally that day that is recognized. And I'm really happy to be here and for you all having me to explain more about that.
It's a pleasure to have you with us. And of course, this is something that you do not want to miss, talking about the Helpdesk Habits hybrid event coming up next week, Wednesday. Omar Romero, the managing director of Rose IT, has been with us in studio. And guess what? There's more coming up in studio, so stay tuned.